Let's talk to Sean Bell, the retired Air Vice-Marshal and military analyst. Sean, welcome. Good to see you. For those of us who are not experts in this, just how significant is Ukraine's incursion into Russia's Kursk region?
Yeah, good afternoon, Jamie. It is quite significant, as your reporter said. You know, it's in over 2 years since the start of the war. This is the first time, really, that Ukraine has mounted an attack into Russian territory. The critics would turn around and say this is a waste of valuable resources. The Ukraine is likely to get snuffed out and will pay a high price. But as a former military guy, warfare is all about initiative. And this has definitely caught Russia by surprise by pushing up to 35 kilometers in. We don't know the key objectives of the Ukrainians, but we have been told up to 20 of Western-supplied Challenger 2 tanks, the Leopard 2 tanks, and 1,000 Ukrainian personnel likely involved in this. What we don't know, it's shrouded in secrecy, not too many briefs, but the 3 points from my perspective is why are they doing it? One is to seize the initiative. Two, almost certainly to demonstrate that Russia is not in total control of this war. And the third one, just imagine the morale for the Ukrainian forces to be fighting back like this.
What does this incursion say about Russia and where it is militarily?
Well, that's a fascinating question. I think Russia has been on the front foot in the war. It's pouring huge resources in. It's trying to take advantage of that lull with the West providing weapons. As you remember, the Americans, it took a while to get the $60 billion of aid through. So Russia's been pouring effort into securing the Donbass, taking huge casualties. And by actually what Ukraine has done here is it's relatively swiftly made a big inroad. Now, Russia knows that its number one priority is to protect its own people. But actually, it's showing that all of its military forces are deployed, and it's struggling, therefore, to hold ground. Now, from Ukraine's perspective, when you're on the offense, you lose 3 times as many people as you do on the defense. So it's going to be incredibly costly for Ukraine. But if they can hold some ground, it will cause Russia to rethink its priorities and potentially take forces away from the front line, ease pressure on Ukraine's front line in order to bolster Russian domestic defense.
Well, let's explore that a little bit more. I mean, how might this incursion change or perhaps influence the military strategies of Ukraine and Russia?
Well, it's, as we've said, I think it's very difficult to know behind the scenes whether Ukraine has done this just as a bit of a one-off to try to ease the pressure on the front line and cause Russia to do some thinking. I think the real issue from my perspective is militarily, although some Ukrainians want to see a Ukrainian flag planted in Moscow, the harsh reality is Ukraine is not powerful enough to do that. There may be some strategic objectives for this push, but it looks much more likely that it's going to be tactically significant, but ultimately Russia will prevail and snuff it out. But the long-term implications are it's a huge border with Ukraine. If Ukraine wants to actually do these attacks again, Russia will be vulnerable, and it will force it to rethink its priorities between how many forces it puts into Ukraine on the offense and how much it protects life at home. And of course, you've got to remember, Putin controls the information narrative in Russia, but of course, if Russian cities are being attacked, it's very difficult for him to control that narrative. So he'll be very keen to ensure that he's in control, that the Russian citizens are protected, and therefore this is an extremely dangerous time for President Putin.
Sean, thank you for that. Sean Bell, retired Air Vice-Marshal and military analyst.